good evening, and welcome to Motivational Monday. I am your host, Jackie O, and we have something very exciting for you on this evening. Our topic that we'll be talking about today is, what's love got to do with it? I think a whole lot. What about y'all? What do y'all think it has to do with it? So we have three amazing couples with us on tonight, and between all three of them, they have about 85 years of marriage. So they're going to talk about how they're sustaining, how they're not just surviving, but how they are thriving in their marriages. We got two couples that are empty nesters. Child, I need to really get some tips from them because I'm being an empty nester real soon. So, how is that going to look? Because, we hear how people say once their kids leave, they leave, right? But these couples, they're showing us that no, that's not happening. We're staying together. So what's love got to do with it? A whole lot. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do our introductions. We'll start off with Dr. Delvina Thomas. Again, this is Motivational Monday. Every first Monday, we have Dr. Delvina, and we're really honored to have her every first Monday because I know she has a super busy schedule. So for her to put time in for us, we appreciate it. All right, Delvina, you can go ahead and give us your introduction.
All righty. Hey, everyone. I'm Dr. Delvina, the Queen of Brain Love. I'm in South Florida, and we're trying to dodge the hurricane. And so while we're dodging, I'm in here so I can hear from the lovely couples so we can talk about what has made these wonderful couples have such a long-lasting relationship in each of their unions, and also the things that they can impart for the viewers and help folks in having more powerful relationships. So thank you for having me, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And the next couple we have is Mr. and Mrs. Robert C. Burrell Sr. And let me just say this, guys. Tonight is all about family. So everybody on here, they're my family. Delvina's like family too because we've known each other since Kuwait. So
we go way back, right?
Yes, we do. So tonight is about family. So the couples, they are my family. So the first couple, again, is Mr. and Mrs. Robert C. Burrell Sr., and they're my parents. So welcome to Motivational Monday.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we want you guys just to give us a brief introduction of how you met, how long you've been married, how many kids you have, grandkids, great-grandchildren.
Okay, well, I guess I'll start off. We met on a blind date. My uncle set me up with a blind date. And prior to that, 2 weeks prior to that, I had seen my husband, Robert, at a barbershop. And so my sister and I had gone to the barbershop, and I saw him sitting in the chair, and I said, "Oh, girl, that's going to be my husband." And she said, "Gee, you don't even know who he is." I said, "I know, but he's going to be my husband." 2 weeks later, my uncle asked me if I wanted to go on a blind date, and I said, "Yes, I do." And so I met him. He came to the house, met my parents, and I told my sister, I said, "That's the same guy that was in the barbershop chair." And she says, "Oh, no, it wasn't." I said, "Oh, yes, it is." And so from that point on, we started dating. 7 months later, we were married. Us to be married for 52 years. We have 7 children. We have 26 grandkids, and we have 1 great-grandchild. So God has been good to us, and it was just meant to be.
All right.
So our story is a love story, and we are still in love today. After 52 years of being married, we are in love, even deeper in love than what we were when we first met.
Oh, Jackie, your mama is a trip.
Girl, don't get us started, child.
Look at your daddy, like, yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Dad, do you have something to say to follow that?
No, I can't follow that.
Well, thank
That's
you
good
so
with me.
much. Well, thank you then to Mr. and Mrs. Burrell. Next, we have Cedric and Angela.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So you're gonna just tell us how you met and how many children you have, how long you've been married.
Well, we met in college. He was sitting at a table and I thought he looked lonely. I had me and a bunch of my girlfriends, we had just come through. We met at Prairie View, as a matter of fact. And we come through there and I said, oh man, let's go sit over there. And he looked like he's real lonely. So we went and sat on at the table. He wasn't lonely, he was rushing because he had to go, he was playing in a basketball game later on that night. And so we just struck up a conversation and he invited me to his basketball game. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go check it out. And when he got up to put his tray up, I said, man, he got some nice calves. And the rest is history.
Yep, that's about right.
That's pretty much it.
Go ahead.
No, go.
No, okay. She actually came to the basketball game. I don't think your friends came, did you?
No, they came.
Okay, they all came. But
Mm-hmm.
and we talked after the game. After that, like she said, the rest is history. So
Yeah, I thought he was ignoring me because I was like, he invited me to this game and then he don't want to talk to me. So I got ready to leave and he tracked me down and that, yeah.
And for the record, I told her I wasn't ignoring her. We had to, after the game, you have to shake hands with with the opposing team and talk to your coach and XYZ. And I said, by the time I did all that, she was already gone. So I had to chase her down from that point. But yeah, it's been,
Okay. All right. Like, is it Cinderella when you're trying to get the glass slipper, trying to find them to fit the glass slipper on?
kind of, sort of,
Yeah. No. But we've been married for 27 years and we have 3 lovely daughters.
Yeah.
And we have one grand dog.
About 5 pounds.
5-pound grand dog.
Chihuahua.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. We've been together happily married ever since.
Yes,
It's been a journey. It's been a fun journey.
Yes.
Yeah. And we definitely want to hear y'all a little bit later too, because Cedric is a retired major from the Army. And so he's been deployed and there's been some, times that of course, if he's deployed, he's away from his family. So yeah, we definitely want to hear from you guys about how your marriage has thrived during those times. And last but not least, we have Nathan and Brenda Chandler. All right, guys.
Hello.
How long you've been married and how many kids?
So Nathan and I met on Facebook. Somewhat. We actually knew of each other's family from a church organization we grew up in way back in the day. But I didn't remember Nathan because he's a lot younger than me, but he remembered me.
How many years younger than me?
A lot younger?
Maybe a lot younger.
Well, maybe 3 years. It sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot. So, anyways, Nathan was building my oldest brother's church when he inquired about me. And my brother told him if he wanted to find out about me, he needed to find me on Facebook.
And I did.
Yes, he did. But first he sent a picture of himself.
And I look good to
through
you.
my brother. And I said to myself, but okay. And so he began to seek me out on Facebook. You know what they say about seeking out your wife. So he sought me out on Facebook and I didn't respond. So guess who he got to next?
I called Jacquie on Facebook.
Okay, so go ahead and tell the story.
I just inquired about you through Messenger, and Jacquie, I guess she called you.
Yeah, Jacquie, she got in touch with me and said, I wish you would call Nathan back because he has contacted me on Facebook, and I don't know why he's contacting me about you. So I did, and we talked for the first time on the phone, and we talked for hours. And we had our first date maybe a month later. We were married about
6 months later.
6 months later. It was very quick. This is the second marriage for both of us, and we have 5 children combined. We're a blended family, and we've been married for eight wonderful years.
Oh, it's been that long. Time fast, so fast.
For 8 wonderful years. Did I miss anything?
No, it was good. You did.
Okay.
Well, thank you to our 3 couples. And so as y'all can see, our topic is very good. What's love got to do with it? A whole lot. We hear nowadays that people don't marry for love and they're not in love. They marry for all different types of reasons. But, you know, there are couples that they did marry for love. They're still in love. We just heard that the love is even deeper than when they first married. So, hey, that's good. Let me hop on Facebook really quickly and make sure I don't miss anything. Oh, yes, everybody was like, oh, hey, this is great. Somebody said, all right, Nathan, okay. Cheering Nathan on because he was seeking out through Facebook, okay. So let's hop right into our questions that we're gonna be talking about tonight. And again, tonight we wanted to talk to couples, as I stated in the beginning, because we hear so much negative, and we're not trying to belittle the negative and the people whose marriages haven't made it or they're going through issues. But we thought it would be refreshing to talk to couples who have made it, who have weathered the storm, because they've gone through the storm, but guess what? There's victory on the other side. And they're gonna tell us how that worked with them. Yes, we are recording this. Felicia, we are recording. Okay, so our first question is, and this is open to anyone that wants to answer. And actually, the question is, what are the 3 most important things in a marriage? And if each couple can just say, what is the most important thing that you have found in your marriage? And if you use communication, I use that as an example, explain how you used, so if you say communication is like one of the most important things, explain how you use communication to make your spouse feel needed, desired, and appreciated. So communication, not just verbally, but you know, where there's some actions. So we'll start with Mr. Robert and my dad and my mom. We'll start with them. And tell us one of the most important things in marriage.
1 or 3?
So if you have 3, you can list all 3 that you have, but then just expound on one.
Okay, all right. One is as noted in the agenda, communication. Excuse me. And the second that to me would be make her your queen. Make your wife or your spouse your queen. And number 3, be intimate. Be intimate.
Oh, I like those, Mr. Burrell. Those are
Okay.
very nice.
Well, thank you. Thank you. All right. So, okay, so you want me to talk about
one?
You can talk about one.
Okay.
Let's talk about the one on making her your queen.
I vote for that one too.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll talk about that one. Make her your queen. That means show her to be number 1. Number 1 in your life. Number one in your friendship. Number 1 in your conversations. She's your friend. She's your friend. She's not only your friend, but she's your best friend. We all have friends, but once we get married, then our spouse should become our best friend, because that's the person that we can talk to, confide in, feel comfortable with, and just pour your heart out too. Pour your soul out too. So make her your queen, and show her to be number 1. Excuse me, and never criticize her. Never criticize your wife in the presence of other people. In other words, don't run your wife down. You know, we know the people do that. You know, sometimes men meet in the barbershop or meet hunting or fishing or whatever. And they'll strike up a conversation and they'll talk about their wives. I make it a practice to never talk about my wife in a negative way. I never criticize her. She's always my queen. And then next, treat her with respect, because after all, she is your queen. And so you respect your queen and you treat her that way. You treat, pardon me, you treat her gentle. Excuse me. You treat her and you treat her like what she is. She's your number one woman. So you treat her that way because she is your queen, and that makes her feel good. That keeps her that keeps the bond strong. That keeps other people out of the marriage, because they're always vultures, and sometimes they can be quite dangerous. But if you've created a tight bond, that's one of the things that keeps them out. That's just one of them. All right, okay, I'm done with that.
Thank you.
Leave her alone.
That was good. Yes, that was really good. Cedric and Angie, what about you guys? What are your top 3 things that's important in marriage, and just expound on one of them? I think you have to come off of mute. There we go. Okay.
Sorry about that.
If you all will excuse me, that was one other point on that I think I mentioned, but I didn't cover it. Be intimate. Be intimate.
Okay, but he wants to cover that, so let him cut. Let's let him be intimate. All right.
All right, so what want me to do?
No, definitely.
No, go ahead and briefly tell us about the intimacy.
Okay.
Without too much detail.
Please.
Okay, without any detail, be intimate, just like you're intimate, when you first get married. Maintain that intimacy all the way through. Don't let it get old and don't let it get cold.
That's true.
Good. That's good.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
All right.
Take notes. All right. Cedric and Angie.
All right. So our 3 would be trust being number 1, commitment being number 2, and number 3 would be communication, as you've already stated.
Mm-hmm.
We would probably we can expand on communication, I guess. And I'll let her talk a little bit on the communication piece.
Well, communication is meaning that, always keep those lines of communication open with each other. Try not to use the phrase, you always do this and you never do this, because it makes your partner defensive. And it's hard to listen when you're defensive and you're thinking of a comeback. And so when you are communicating, try to use open statements like, I feel like, or sometimes I don't think I get this. Never use you always and you never. Try to take those out of your vocabulary, because it really doesn't promote understanding, and you don't get anywhere. Your fights don't provide any direction. And so fight fairly, but be willing to listen, to really listen. And then do several gut checks sometimes, because sometimes what your partner's bringing up, it really is true. And maybe you should, consider what they're saying. And if you find that to be true, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, you're right. I'm going to take a look at that. Even if you don't see it right then and there, just be open to what they're saying, and just make a point to really try to see it from their point of view. So, you know, you can either, you'll see it later on or you won't see it, but at least they'll walk away from the conversation feeling heard.
Right. And I would add to what she said as also be willing to compromise. That's
Yes.
part of communication as well, because a lot of couples, you know, especially speaking from a male point of view, sometimes we feel like, you know, we may be the breadwinner in some cases. Sometimes the spouse, you know, may be the breadwinner, but in a lot of males' cases, if we feel we're the breadwinner, we feel like we want to be heard the most or the loudest. And so sometimes when it comes down to being compromising between the couples, we feel like our voice should be heard the loudest, and that's not the case. Part of communication is listening, but also compromising as well. And Angie already kind of touched on it. You know, there's things that your spouse has very legitimate points and points of view that from both sides, you need to, you know, step back, take a look at it and say, you know what, you know, I've always, you know, been the one to do this, do that. You know, this is her chance. Let her do, this is her time. You know, or if I feel like, even if I feel like I might be right, she may be wrong. Compromise sometimes mean you have to step back and say, you know what, you're right. You know, I'm going to let you go ahead and just take this. I'll let you go ahead and do this. You might feel like, you know what, I don't normally get, you know, this amount or do this, but part of being married is compromising. And I believe if you can learn to compromise at an early stage in your marriage, that'll also help your marriage in the long term as well. And then I would probably say our last one, in addition to listening, actually I was going to say listening as well. We're going to say date night. We do a lot of part of our communication and talking. We do a lot of date night. So as Angie already mentioned, we have 3 daughters, and pretty much all of them are at the house except our youngest. She's in college right now. So for the most part, like Jackie O. Is it right, Jackie O?
Jackie O. Mm-hmm.
Okay. As Jackie O stated, you know, we are one of those empty nester couples. And so we have friends actually that we know of today raise their kids, and they may be like a hair older than us, but when their kids left, their marriage dissolved and they're no longer together. And I'll just give you a real short snippet, you know, a little quick story. One time we were out here where we stay at, and we passed by a restaurant, and we saw this one particular couple sitting in the restaurant. We noticed, well, we was actually going to a movie, and we saw them just sitting in the window, and they wasn't saying anything. They were just kind of looking at each other, looking out the window for the most part, but there was no communication. And we were just standing outside waiting for the movie to start. About probably 10 minutes later, no communication whatsoever. Lo and behold, we had no idea what was going on. But I would say about less than a year later, that same couple that we saw end up getting a divorce. And she actually came and told us. We didn't ask her. She just told us when we saw her at a concert one night, an orchestra concert that our daughter would play in. And she was like, yeah, we got a divorce. It didn't work out. And we kind of saw that just that one night that we saw them sitting in the window not communicating. So one thing that I would say what we do, and we've been doing this since we raised our girls, we go out on date nights. We make it a point to go at least once a month. Now that they're gone, we actually do it like twice a month. Sometimes we just go whenever we feel like it. We don't really put a number on it now. So that's very important in our relationship as well, spending time with each other. And I heard my parents already alluded to that as well, you know, spending time. And she's my queen as well. She can tell you, I make sure she's my #1 queen. Whatever she asks for the most part, she gets it. So that's also important. So I agree with one of his actual top 3, make her your queen.
Yeah, within the budget.
Yeah, within the budget.
Yes, I can't say that for both couples that, I have seen, witnessed my own self, not everything, but the things I have, that y'all do treat your wives like a queen, and they do get what they ask within the budget, like Angie said. All right, we got to put that budget in there. All right, Brenda and Nathan, let's hear what y'all have to say about y'all's most important.
The most important for us, the first would be God. He is the most important thing in our relationship. The second thing would probably be trust. And the third thing would be intimacy. I'm going to talk maybe just on trust. The reason I want to talk on trust is because This is our second marriage for both of us. And so trust is really important in our marriage because of the fact that in previous marriages, things happen. And so one thing that I try to do for her, whenever she calls me, I answer. It doesn't make a difference where I'm at or what I'm doing. I always answer the phone because that's something that she looks forward to, me answering the phone when she calls. The next thing that I think we try to do is, I don't have a lock on my phone. I never have had a lock on my phone, but just that little bit of for her to be able to know that I'm not hiding anything, I think that goes a long way, especially in marriages that this, like I said, this is our second marriage. And so for us both being divorced, trust is probably one of the most, or the biggest thing for us, especially being the second marriage for us. So I would say that was probably one of the biggest things that I would expound on because of our previous relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
I would agree with that. And Nathan has been, and we've been married for 8 wonderful years, and he has been very, open and sharing with me. He doesn't, hide things from me. I know sometimes in relationships, spouses, whether it's a husband or wife, may hide, things that they're doing and they don't want the other spouse to see, and maybe because they're not doing right. And so he has been, very open because that was something that was important to me, being able to trust. Trust is very important, and communication is important too. I'm a big communicator. Nathan is not so much, but he shows his communication in different ways. And so how he communicates, me, I'm a talker because I talk, period. I talk for a living. I talk all the time. So I'm a talker.
All the time.
All the time. Exactly. And I'm always questioning or, wanting to know how he's feeling or how he's doing. But he communicates more by doing for me, so by actions. And so that's how he shows, his love for me, by doing for me. And that's how he communicates. And I receive that well. And so I think it's just also learning how to communicate, with your spouse, and what they respond to most. He will talk, but he is not a big talker. So I had to learn what is the best way for me to communicate with him that he can, he'll receive, and, and vice versa. And so that's a big thing for us too, communication.
That's good. That's good. Dr. Delvina, you have some comments? I see you shaking your head.
Your family covered everything. They covered everything.
Yeah.
The communication, the trust, the intimacy. I mean, they pretty much hit everything. Even Cedric, his wife, explained how it's important to use I statements as opposed to you, and being careful at how you communicate, the style that you use when you have a disagreement or when you're bringing something to someone's attention. So I don't have anything else to add. Those are all of the essential things. The most common reason for failed relationships, it's communication, lack of effective communication. People think it's finances, but it's really lack of communication, effective communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Thank you. And one thing Nathan said, that in theirs is God. And I know growing up in our family, and I know God is in all of your relationships,
That's right.
that is so important. But I know growing up in our family, my father's a pastor. Let me say that. He wasn't a pastor when we were growing up, but he is now. But even then, when we were growing up, we saw them pray together. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very important because in my marriage, I'm no longer married, but in my first marriage, that's what I wanted us to do. And he didn't see the importance of that, but I saw the importance of it because I saw my parents do that. And even to this day, when we go home, that's the first thing my dad is up doing. He's praying, and, my mom, they do it together. And so that is very important, is to have God in your life and in your marriage, because marriages, it can be hard. And if you don't have God in it, then I'm telling you. All right, so let's keep it moving. So the next question, and this is open to anyone that would like to answer it, is, were there seasons in your marriage that were rough and a little sketchy, and you didn't know if you was gonna come out, but you came out? And you came out, and how did you come out? That's open to any.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
no, you go ahead, Mom.
There was a season once, this happened years ago. I think we were married almost, not quite 2 years. And for some reason, I was a little jealous. And so my husband at the time liked to shoot pool. And he would go out to A&M to the pool hall and shoot pool. So that particular night, I got upset with him. So actually, he put me out. I told him I was really upset. He said, "Okay, well, you're gonna walk home." So he put me out. And at that time, it was a phone booth. It wasn't. I don't think we had cell phones. It was a phone booth. So I went into the phone booth and I called my parents. And I told them what had happened, that my husband had put me out of the car in the dark and made me stand at the phone booth. And so when he did that, my parents came to pick me up. And so they picked me up. And instead of them, I told them I wanted to go home with them. But instead of them taking me to their house, they took me to my house. And I was telling them, no, I didn't want to go home because I was afraid to go home, that he might kill me. But unfortunately, he did not. Fortunately, he did not kill me. I'm still here today. But she said, no, you are going home. So from that point on, if we had disagreements or anything, I learned how to handle it myself. I didn't go to my parents telling my parents. I didn't go telling anybody else. I just took care of the situation myself. So I learned a lesson that my parents was not going to solve the problem. I had to solve my own problem. So they showed me that when they took me back. And when I told him, I said, well, he might kill me. She said, well, he's not going to kill you. You're just going home. And so they took me home, waited till I went into the house, and they drove off and left me. So from that experience, I learned to handle my own problems. So don't go around telling your problems to everybody, your friends and everything like that, because a lot of times they can't help you. They can't do it. And even my parents, they could have helped, but they didn't help. So that was but they knew it was best not to help. They knew it was best for me to solve my own problems, whatever it was that I was dealing with. So after that, 50 years later, I'm still here. So
you didn't run back home after that. It only took
I didn't run back home after that. I learned a lesson.
Yeah. Cedric.
Well, I would say yes as well. That's just, I don't know what Dr. Thomas had to say about this, but I think a lot of couples, as they, the longer they're together, at some point in time, they'll have disagreements along the way, and they have to learn how to work through them. So we're part of that same group. But how we got through it was because our communication wasn't always like the level where it's at right now. We had to go to counseling, marriage counseling. And they actually, earlier in my career, when I was in the service, and it actually did as well. Matter of fact, some of the same tips that the counselor gave us, we're still doing today, as I mentioned earlier, date night. But our communication that's what came from the marriage counseling. So there are a lot of, some guys, I'm not gonna say all guys, but some guys, they're against doing marriage counseling. But speaking from a male perspective, I think if you feel like your relationship may be on the rocks or you're not sure which way to go, she's not seeing it your way, the best thing to do is to go to counseling. Now, let me say this with counseling. With counseling, you have to be careful as far as who you go to. And let me just say this, and this is no slight or dig on anything or anyone, but it's important that both you and your spouse feel comfortable the marriage therapist that you're going to see. And I'm saying that because some may use their family as marriage counselors. If your spouse is okay with both you all going to someone within your family to provide that marriage counseling, then so be it. But both of you all need to be on the same page. And, spiritual counseling, because like Sister Jackie already mentioned earlier, everyone on here right now, God is number one in our lives, of course, we believe that. And we all should be seeking spiritual counseling. But sometimes, like I say, it all depends on who you go to. Your spouse has to also feel comfortable. If you're going to receive spiritual counseling for marriage counseling, both parties need to agree with that. Now, that's not to say that everybody wants to do spiritual counseling. Some may feel like, you know what, I really don't want to do spiritual counseling. I'd rather just do marriage counseling, someone on the outside that's not necessarily in the church and that's what we did. But like I say, this is early in our marriage, but it still helped us, even though we didn't go through spiritual counseling. And we're still here together to this day, as well as Angie already stated, 27 plus years later. So I think marriage counseling is definitely a key ingredient in helping your communication getting back on track. If you feel like it's off track or about to go off track, that's how you get it back on, is marriage counseling. I'm gonna let her talk a little bit in case I talk too much.
No, I agree with what you said. I would just caveat with saying marriage counseling is fantastic. It worked for us. The only thing with marriage counseling is it's not a magic bullet.
Yeah.
It's not the magic remedy. There's no magic to it. You have to do the work. So if you decide to take the counseling route, whichever direction you go into, you have to be willing to do the work. The counselor is there to give you feedback and bring things to your attention that maybe you haven't noticed, or because you're so deep into it, you can't see the forest for the trees. The counselor is that third party that's not emotionally attached to either one of y'all. So they're neutral. They're the neutral third party. And they're there to kind of like guide you through the process. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work. So a counselor is only as good as the effort you put into it. And they're not going to solve your problems, and that's not what they're there for. But if you go in with the open mind and you're willing to put in the work, then I think, based on our experience, it can be very, very helpful and extremely insightful. We've learned things that we still put in practice to this day. And the things, even though we didn't go to a spiritual counselor, we went to a secular counselor. A lot of the things, matter of fact, everything the counselor told us lined up with our spiritual perspective. Right. And if it didn't, we didn't listen to it. So, but I don't remember her saying anything that didn't, line up to it. We were active in the church when we was having problems. And so the Bible has always been a guideline for us, but we needed more practical information and more practical tips to help us. And that's where the counselor came into play. But at the end of the day, we had to do the work. And so I just wanted to let people know it's not a magic pill. It's not a cure-all. You still got to do the work. But I totally agree with what my husband said.
And one of those tips she's talking about, besides date night, we also wrote each other letters. That was one of the tips that she told us. So when we were upset at each other, if we weren't communicating, verbally, if we couldn't do that without being upset at one another, we would write. And so that was a great tool for us to help us communicate. So we would write letters to each other to express our emotions or our feelings, X, Y, Z. And so that helped a lot, and then that parlayed into, getting things back on track again. So like I say, those are some great tips you can also use as well.
And in time, be patient with each other. Yeah. Time, heals all wounds. And so if you have patience with each other and don't try to fix each other, he's going to be who he's going to be. I'm going to be who I'm going to be, and we don't try to change each other. We let each other be who we are. Right. And we find ways to make that work, to have that blend. And so don't try to fix each other. You fell in love with that person for a reason. Trust that.
That's right. Good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay,
Good point.
good point. Delvina, do you want to have a hop in real quick?
I like everything that I'm hearing from the different couples. You know, I can really tell that Cedric and his wife, that they're seasoned in terms of their voyage with their relationship. And your mom and dad, they are as well, but they did theirs a little differently. There's more life lessons than anything. And so I'm glad that Cedric and Mrs. Burrell are talking about their journey with a counselor, because people have to be comfortable with going to a counselor, especially the way things are now in this world with so many secular things and the challenges in relationships. It's just really a benefit to meet with someone who can give you an unbiased opinion and help you process through some of the challenges in a relationship, because it can be very challenging. So thank you to your brother and his wife for speaking openly about that. Hopefully people feel more comfortable about doing that, especially if they find that they're having challenges in their relationship.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Did Brenda, Nathan, did y'all want to hop in? Are you good? Y'all good?
Yeah, sure. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry. I was so involved in what Angie and was saying, and
so you were basically, the question was, were there seasons in your marriage that were a little rough, a little sketchy, and you know, you didn't know if you were going to make it, but you did. And how did you do it? How did you come out?
For us, our issues were probably with the kids. We have a blended family. And so with having a blended family, I love my kids, she loves her kids. And so you kind of get into, I don't know what you call it, but I'll say just one story. A niece, she was 7 years old when we got together. And so a niece had never got a whooping by her father. And so I was in my truck and she was kicking the bottom of the console in my truck, and I told her, you better stop. And she looked at me and she kicked it again. I said, if you do it again, I'm gonna pop you. She kicked it again and I popped her. So when I popped her, she cried. So when we got home that evening, I was living in Houston. When we got home, she told Brenda, Nathan hit me. And so when she told Brenda, of course, as her mama, we've been married. We had been married, but maybe a year, almost two. And so, of course, she took her side. And so when she took her side, I told her to stop, you know, and we kind of got into it for us. And so that was an issue initially in the beginning, but we worked through it. I've told Brenda in the beginning that you want me to take her to school? You want me to buy her things? I said, if you want me to love her just like my child, I'm gonna have to whoop her just like mine. And so we came to an understanding that that's how I was. I whooped my kids, and I whooped all of them. And then we had one more issue with my oldest daughter, and her and Brenda bumped heads quite a bit, and it caused some serious problems with our relationship because you know I raised Ari, and she has an attitude, but she is the way she is, and the way Brenda raises her kids is not how I raised mine initially. And so we bumped heads. However, we worked through it, but it was something that was difficult for us initially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, because, and like Nathan said, I mean, the way I raised Anise and Isaiah, you know, my children, he raised different. And so when we were coming together, it was two different parenting styles. And those two different parenting styles didn't exactly mesh. And so he had to understand how I parented, you know, mine, and how he parented his, and the kids had to see how I parented, you know, as well, but which was different. And so I think with that, you know, we had to communicate with the kids as well. Not only did him and I have to trust one another with the children, but also we had to talk to the kids, you know, let them know, you know, this is not because I'm punishing you because X, Y, and Z, but because I love you and I would do the same thing. I'm treating you the same way I would treat, you know, my own. And so we had to work through that, because when you have children that are not babies and it's a second marriage and you're blending and they're older and they're already kind of set in their ways, that takes a lot of work. And so that's what we had to really work on, as a couple. First, we had to see eye to eye on how we were going to raise the children.
That's the most important thing, for us to see eye to eye.
And once we were able to see eye to eye, and the kids saw that we were on the same page, and you can't play me against Nathan, and then is when we really started to see progress. But we really had to work through that. And now, the kids are older now. They're half of them, or 3 of them are adults. There's only 2 that are still in school. But we all have really good relationships, but that wasn't overnight. That took a lot of work for us to really nurture those relationships, and that nurturing took time, because they were older. And so that was we weren't going to get a divorce over it, but, that's been the major thing that we have had in our marriage, is blending our families together and making sure that our children know that they were loved from both of us. So.
That's good. That was a question that we had too. So I'm glad you touched on that, was about blended families and how does that work? Because that is true, because you're already coming together, as the 2 adults, and now you have kids that you're bringing in and blending. So that was good. And I like the point that you made, that you were on the same page and you showed a united front. And I think that's good, in whether blended or, we're all raised in the same house, and that's how our parents, we saw it with them. There was a united front, there was no different where you can, because we got whippings too, Nathan. I don't think Brenda whooped her kids, but we did.
She do whoop them.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, she must have just started. And so, I remember my dad would whoop us, and my brother, we all got whoopings. Everybody all got whoopings. But one of my brothers, Chris Delvina, you met him last month. And Chris would always run and get under the bed. And he would hide, and he would just put on extra clothes. He would just do extra. And so my mom would always be pleading, Robert, don't whoop him. Robert, please don't whoop him. Don't whoop him. But, we did need it, though. They still was on a united front, so
yes, they were.
I kind of got off a little bit, but I was still trying to say that. That's what I was trying to say. So, well, guys, this has been really good. We're gonna have to do this again, to where we have more time to really unpack and just really get down and really talk. And have a candid conversation. I know we've gone over our time, and we try to keep it within at least 40 minutes. So we're going a little bit over, but I think it's good. I think we had a good conversation, and I'm not going to ask the last question, because I just want y'all to just give us your last and final thoughts before we close out. And so we'll start in the order from the oldest all the way down to the youngest.
Well, I think among the 3 couples, we've covered all of the basics, and I don't have to think. I know if people practice these principles, that we've been talking about, that we use, they will have a successful marriage, and as Nathan said, the first thing that any of us, all of us need, is the Lord in our lives and in our marriages. When we make God Lord of our lives and Lord of our marriages and Lord of our homes and Lord of whatever it is that we're doing, we can't help but succeed. We will succeed. Sometimes, I think Angie said this, we have to be patient with it. We have to spend time, and we have to let the Lord do what he does. We do what we do, and he do what he does. And when we take that approach to it, it'll work out good every time.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would say, find as many opportunities to laugh with one another. A sense of humor, especially in these days and times, is very important. And you don't need a lot of money to be happy. Find little ways to enjoy life together right now where you are in your marriages. We laugh a lot. We laugh at a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is inappropriate. because I have a dark sense of humor. And but we laugh a lot, and so that really is one of the perks of getting older is we find a lot of things to laugh about. So enjoy those laughs as much as you can,
Yeah.
and as often.
And I agree with Angie. And then I would say also, for it might be some couples like, you know what, well, we don't have a lot of money, we don't know where to go, what to do. I remember there was a point in our relationship when we was living in Hawaii. I was actually stationed in Hawaii, Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. We had a flyer, it's called 101 free and cheap things to do. We did 100 out of the 101 things over the 3 years that we were there. So basically we spent not just time with each other, but with our kids. We took them places. Like our parents did us growing up. Our parents took us places, spent time with us, and we traveled when we could. But we did the same thing. So make the best out of wherever you're located. It might be in a place where it might not have a lot stuff going on. We would go to the park with our kids. We'll have picnics with our kids in the park. We'll play Unos. We'll play cars. We'll throw frisbee with them, but we always found free and cheap things to do to help pass time. And actually, they remember a lot of these same things that we did. We don't remember half of them. Like, remember when y'all took us here and we did this? We can't remember half those things now, but we created those memories for them, and it didn't cost a lot of money. So I would also say part of having a successful marriage is spend time not only with your wife but also with your kids and doing fun things together as a family.
Yeah, because we some of the things we did when we were really, really poor, we used to go up and down the aisles of Walmart, remember?
Yeah.
And we would stroll Walmart and just dream, or we get a car. We still do this to this day. We go and we look at model homes and we just ride through neighborhoods and we just talk. It's free and cheap. And so, and we still do a lot of the things that we did when we first got married and we had no money. We still do them to this day.
Yeah.
So you don't need a lot of money to be happy.
Now we can afford to eat at Taco Bell.
Yeah, now I get cheese on my burger.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
Our own fries.
50 cents to get a slice of cheese.
Slice of cheese, double cheese.
All right, Nathan and Brenda, do y'all have some last words y'all would like to leave with us?
Well, I mean, I think like my father said, and Cedric, I mean, y'all have all summed it up very well. And we agree. I mean, the biggest thing is communicating with one another, trusting one another. We are the same way. We laugh all the time. We have fun together. We like spending time together. And I think that's important. I know when I first moved up here, you know, I was kind of going crazy because I left everything back in Houston. And so that really gave me time to just get to know my husband very well. I mean, we are best friends. And so I think that's really important that you become best friends with your spouse because you are going to spend the rest of your life together.
Yeah.
So that's what, you know, the goal is. And so you need to be able to know them well and be able to appreciate them. So I appreciate him. I know he appreciates me. And so that's just the most important thing. So, and of course, like everybody said, we keep God first in our marriage. And that's what helps our marriage to survive. Because without him, I'm telling you, we wouldn't be in a relationship. So with him, all things are possible. So,
amen.
And
that's right.
Yeah, and that really is that's just the truth. So. And that's it.
Thank you guys. Wow, this has been really good. Dr. Delvina had another call, so she had to hop off. But thank you again to each couple that was here. I truly, truly appreciate you guys taking time out. You too, Nathan, for being on. You know, Nathan, but you know, hey, we love him. So. Thank you guys for, taking time to be out and be here with us on our Motivational Monday. And I just want to just say a couple of things before we hop off is we do have some resources. So if you are struggling, if you need some spiritual guidance with your marriages, we do have some people that can help you. So as I mentioned before, my father, he is a pastor, and so he is available, and I'll be putting all of this information in the chat. I'll also be putting it in on our YouTube channel and what other platforms that we have. I'll also include Dr. Delvina's information. And she is located in Florida, but she can do teledoc. So you do have these people available for you, these resources available for you. And we'll also put numbers just for different things. And Cedric and Angie, if y'all have that list, and if it's some things that we can do, like people can do anywhere, you can send us some things and we'll add that. We want to add some resources for you, like free things, as they were saying, and even writing, looking at houses. Me and my girls, we do that now during COVID, because what else can we do? But hey, we have fun doing that and saying, oh yeah, I like that house, we're gonna stay here. And when the model homes are open, we go look and be inspired, and at all the beautiful interior decorating that's done. So there are some things that you can do. Date night, there was just a lot of information. Blended families, for those that have blended families that asked a question about that, just keep the united front. So I hope you guys took notes, because there was so many great nuggets that was given on tonight. And the last two things is, we are still celebrating Black-owned businesses. We're still celebrating Black-owned women businesses. And so I am still purchasing. And so one of the things that I did, and these are gifts I'm going to actually give away, but this is a painting. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? This lady is a self-taught artist. Her name is Keela Smalls. Hey, Keela. Yes, she is from Florida. She lives in Palm Bay, Florida. She actually orders products from me. She's one of my regular customers. And so I wanted to support her business, and I bought some of her artwork. And so you guys need to check her out. She's really good. She is a specialist for animals. So Tinkerbell, if you want a picture of Tinkerbell,
Yeah.
and if you want a picture of Sam and all the other dogs y'all have,
Yeah.
Kayla, because she will hook y'all up, okay? And then the last thing is, next Monday, my special guest will be Holly Beckwith, and Holly is the owner of My Chocolate Kitchen. And I'm excited to have Holly on, because her business is all about supporting moms, supporting single moms. She has a subscription box, and our products are in her subscription box. And so we're excited that we're able to be a part of that project with Holly. So make sure y'all tune in next Monday. We'll be here again, Jacquie O Project, Motivational Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Again, thank you again to my family, Mr. and Mrs. Robert C. Burrell Sr., Cedric, Mr. and Mrs. Cedric and Angela Burrell, and Mr. and Mrs. Nathan and Brenda Chandler. Thanks again, guys, everyone. And good night. Y'all have a good rest of your week.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. We enjoyed it.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you.
So much.
Good night to all you people out there in Radio Land.
Yeah.